Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So hopefully you've all had a chance to see Doctor Strange by now. So this is going to be my top picks for what I think they should do next with the character, especially considering Avengers Infinity War. Just careful for spoilers for everything that happened during Doctor Strange. So the really exciting thing is we're actually going to be seeing some Doctor Strange really soon. We know that because of the post-credits scene. So number one, just flat out hold off on a direct Doctor Strange sequel like Doctor Strange 2 until Phase 4 because they have about 8 more films in Phase 3 that go up till May of 2019. That'll be the second Avengers Infinity War film, leaving the fall of 2019, like later that year, for whatever they want to start Phase 4 with. So right off the bat, they could start fall 2019 with Doctor Strange 2 and pick up on some of the big things that they teased that were happening at the end of the first Doctor Strange movie. That's really like the easiest thing for them to do because they do have to follow up on those plot threads. The biggest ones being the threat of Dormammu, which I'll talk about in a second because I don't think that he's going to be a big villain for a long time. And 2, the more immediate threat of Baron Mordo killing off magic users. So I think, like next big Doctor Strange movie, it'll be Doctor Strange versus Baron Mordo, and it'll be the culmination of his ascension to Sorcerer Supreme. Because at the end of this movie, even though he wielded the Eye of Agamotto, the Time Gem, the Ancient One said that she saw great potential in him, he is not the Sorcerer Supreme. So currently, there is not one on Earth right now. A lot of that arc will take place over the course of Phase 3. So just like the Hulk gets like a really big story stretched out over a bunch of other people's films, Doctor Strange's story of his ascension to Sorcerer Supreme will kind of cross over a bunch of films, but a lot of times they'll save the biggest twists for characters for their solo films. And becoming Sorcerer Supreme is a huge deal, so they would probably save that moment, like the final moment of that, when he becomes Sorcerer Supreme, for the next Doctor Strange movie. But I know I just talked about Dormammu. We know that he's a big threat. What I think is going to happen, I think we're all kind of in agreement that he's such a big threat that they'll just save him for like the next big thing after Thanos. The director, Scott Derrickson's even having a little bit of fun with that idea too. So the heroes will deal with Thanos during both of the Infinity War films, then Dormammu will slowly move in and become a bigger threat. So number 3, Doctor Strange and Thor Ragnarok crossover movie. It's really more of a Thor movie with Doctor Strange in it, but like I said, throughout Phase 3, we'll see a lot of Doctor Strange. Sometimes it'll be very brief, sometimes it'll be much bigger. Thor, you could think of it as a big crossover because it's a pretty big plot point, helping them track down Odin on Earth so that they can get back to Asgard, deal with Hela and the Ragnarok monsters. So I'll even say I'm totally cool with them pushing off a direct Doctor Strange sequel so that they can do more stuff like that, more team-up movies. And Kevin Feige did tease that the Phase 4 movies will look a lot different from the way they structured the Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3 movies, which I think just means a lot more team-ups. So like even if we don't see an Iron Man sequel, actually I'll go ahead and say number 4, Doctor Strange Iron Man team-up, which I think is a good option for both actors. Because at this point, Robert Downey Jr. is so expensive and he's getting to that age where it's like, what kind of story haven't we done yet? What is there that he's capable of doing that people want to buy movie tickets for? So I just think the idea of working with Benedict Cumberbatch would excite Robert Downey Jr. enough to get him to do a movie. So the problem with that is that if you're going to put Iron Man and Doctor Strange in a movie together, and it's going to be like their buddy road trip comedy movie, you need to have a villain with 1 foot in the realm of science and 1 foot in the realm of magic. And who is that in the Marvel Universe? Well, that is Doctor Doom, and they don't have access to him right now. He would be a perfect villain for Doctor Strange Iron Man team-up, but I'm not going to hold my breath for Fox sharing the character, so they might be able to do a version of the Mandarin a la the 10 Rings. They did that short film called Hail to the King where they teased the idea that there is a real Mandarin who is in the world somewhere. We just haven't seen him yet. Who knows if he'll ever surface. But if you read some of the furor over the recasting of Tilda Swinton, like the way they cast that character, how like a lot of people felt like it was really insensitive, there was a whole bunch of drama behind it. Just imagine them trying to do the Mandarin character and then selling the movie in China. So it's just a huge landmine that they don't want to step on. So even though it would be awesome to see the Mandarin, whose rings come from an alien race, so there's your science right there, but they're also imbued with their own level of intelligence, so you have some supernatural. So, Mandarin would be a good villain for Doctor Strange Iron Man team up, as long as he did have the 10 rings. But I don't think that Marvel's going to do that, so they might just save, Doctor Strange Iron Man team up solo film for whenever they can get a villain that they feel like is big enough, or they can actually get Doctor Doom flat out. But Kevin Feige himself was just saying how excited he was at the thought of Benedict Cumberbatch in scenes as Doctor Strange with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, just seeing those two characters interact with each other and seeing how crazy it gets. So we'll actually get a taste of that when we get to Infinity War. So it's still a little ways off, but it's coming. Next big idea is a Doctor Strange multiverse treasure hunt. Treasure hunt is always a ton of fun, very swashbuckling adventure, but because it's Doctor Strange, he's not bound by time or space. He can go all over the multiverse. If you remember the 2001 Space Odyssey montage, where the Ancient One just kind of pushes him on a trip through the multiverse just to give him a taste of what's out there, just imagine a pretty straight up treasure hunt story where he's tracking down dangerous magical artifacts. Along the way, he crosses paths with people like Mephisto, Dormammu again, just a little bit. You want to keep him off in the distance. You don't want to do too much of him too soon. But that would be more of like a straight up national treasure type story with Marvel characters. So it wouldn't be quite as crazy. But then, the last big idea would be like a Team Magic film. So if you really wanted to, you could do like a Baron Mordo, Loki team up against Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and any of the other magical characters that we see along the way. Because there are a lot of characters they just haven't introduced yet. So really, you could put anyone in that movie who has the power of an Infinity Gem, depending on what their status is after the second Infinity War film. But I know a lot of you are wondering, what about comic book stories? Well, most of the stuff that they do in the movies are amalgams of comic books, and we've already seen all this big stuff that they set up in the first film, like Staff of the Living Tribunal, all these magical artifacts, story points like Dormammu, what's going on with Baron Mordo. They have to carry those forward, so largely you kind of know what they're going to be doing with any sequel that they do. But the other big thing is just mixing in the other Marvel characters. Like, we kind of saw some Marvel-verse stuff happening during Doctor Strange, but just like Ant-Man was its own little small thing by itself, so was Doctor Strange. So now the job, just like sticking Ant-Man in Civil War with all these other characters, is doing the same thing with Doctor Strange, like mixing his universe with everyone else's. So let me know, what do you want them to do for the next Doctor Strange movie? And do you think that they should just try to use him in big crossovers like they're doing with the Iron Man character? Like, Iron Man's gonna pop up during a bunch of different films, like Spider-Man Homecoming, the Avengers films, but thus far they've said nothing about doing another solo Iron Man film. So I think the closest thing we'll get is like a really big team up with another character that we haven't seen Iron Man interact with before, which would be Doctor Strange. What's going to happen next, though, is tomorrow there'll be some new Game of Thrones. They actually just announced that Emilia Clarke's going to be in the Star Wars Han Solo movie. They didn't say who she was going to play, though. And then there'll be some new Walking Dead. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here for my Doctor Strange Easter eggs, and you can click here for a really cool Tom Holland Spider-Man Homecoming interview. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five from behind the screen. I'll see you guys tomorrow.